My books, The Origin of Names, Words, and Everything in Between, volumes 1 and 2, are available to purchase from most major booksellers in all major formats. Order your copies today so you can enjoy these books for yourself and help support the channel.
Most sentences in English and many other languages end with a little dot we like to call a full stop, or period if you're stateside. This little dot serves the purpose of allowing readers to know a sentence has come to an end, that they can take a breather, and that the next sentence might be about something a little different. While the large majority of sentences end with one of these little guys, this isn't the only piece of punctuation that can end a sentence. Full stops serve the purpose of ending a sentence that is simply meant to be said in a very neutral tone or a matter-of-fact way. What if you want your sentence to be somewhat interrogative, or you want it to be a sentence that is meant to be said with bravo and excitement? In these cases, we have a couple special pieces of punctuation that we can use instead, those being the question mark and exclamation mark. You are probably very familiar with these guys and their effects on the written language. They're seen all over the place. In fact, sometimes they're used on their own, like a question mark representing mystery, or an exclamation mark representing danger ahead. When used in sentences, however, a question mark tells us that a sentence is a question, whereas an exclamation mark tells us that a sentence is meant to be exclaimed. Take the example sentence of "I am so happy." When we use a normal full stop, it just kind of falls flat. Yet when we add an exclamation mark and say "I'm so happy," the happiness is conveyed much better. Though if we add a question mark and say "I'm so happy," that implies the speaker's questioning their happiness, or not actually happy at all. These marks also change the way these sentences are said out loud, with question marks having a more slanted tone that go higher at the end, and exclamation marks making things more loud. As for their names, well, they're pretty self-explanatory, though they do sometimes have more interesting names too, like the exclamation mark has been referred to as a bang, screamer, and shriek mark. The question mark is also known as an ereteme in some cases, which comes from the Greek eretema, meaning to question. And yes, they are sometimes known as question/exclamation points too. I'm sticking with mark as that's what I've always said. These two punctuation marks are often seen as a pair, the two we use when a normal full stop just won't cut it. One story has them actually coming from the same origin, that being cats. Yeah, this theory is highly unlikely to be true, but it's fun and I want to share it anyway. As cats are believed to be their point of origin, it should come as no surprise that this story is thought to be from ancient Egypt. Egyptians worshipped cats, as we all know by now after years of being on the internet. The idea is that the shape of these punctuation marks comes from the shape of a cat's tail depending on its mood. If a cat is curious and inquiring about something, its tail may curve at the top, a similar shape to the question mark. However, if a cat is scared and shocked, its tail might be bolt upright, like an exclamation mark. It's from the shape of these cats' tails as to where the mark's shapes are thought to have come from. It's a really neat idea, but it's extremely unlikely to actually be true. This is because the ancient Egyptians really didn't use punctuation in the same way we do today. It's more likely that the question mark and exclamation mark came from separate origins, though what's interesting is that there are parallels in their supposed origins. Both have two leading theories in their origins, with one of those theories coming from ancient Rome and another theory coming from the Middle Ages. Their Roman theories have both these marks being condensed from Latin words. In the case of the question mark, it is thought that it may have come from the Latin word of quaestio, which simply means question. It's thought that eventually this big word was shortened to just quo, or maybe it was pronounced QO, who's to say? It's from these letters of Q and O as to where the shape of the symbol is thought to have come from. A Q next to an O might not look all that much like a question mark, but when you use a more cursive script and slowly start to merge them together until the O sits underneath the Q, we can start to see the modern question mark take its form, with the O eventually no longer being an O, and more like a dot similar to a full stop. The exclamation mark has a similar Latin origin theory too. This time it's thought however to come from the Latin term of io. This translates to meaning joy and was used by Romans as a shout of exclamation. Like with the question mark, it's thought that slowly over time, the I and O of EO came together in a more cursive script. The O fell under the I and it took the shape of the modern exclamation mark. These are really interesting theories, but they're still debated. There isn't all that much evidence of this being the case for their origins, but these origins are far less dubious than the Egyptian cattail theory, that's for sure. But this means there are theories that the symbols come from ancient Egypt and ancient ancient Rome. More concrete theories behind the origin of these symbols, however, come to us from the Middle Ages, though the Middle Ages was quite a large chunk of time, and these theories dictate there are hundreds of years between the two of them being created. The question mark is seen as coming first, with its origins lying in the 8th century AD. It was in this century that a man by the name of Alcuin of York supposedly created the question mark symbol, at least what would become the question mark symbol anyway. He was a highly respected scholar from England, so respected that he received an invitation from none other than Charlemagne to join his court in France. In Charlemagne's court, Alcuin got to work on writing many books and poems, yet there was a slight issue. Many of the people reading his work didn't know how to interpret everything he was saying on the written page. He needed a way to let readers know that he was posing a question, so formed a punctuation mark to do just that. This symbol was formed with a tilde, which is a symbol more often used to represent accents like with the Spanish N, along with a normal full stop, which had been well and truly established by this point. He gave this mark the fancy name of punctus interrogativus, which means something along the lines of interrogative punctuation. It's easy to see how this formed into the question mark that we all know today, especially when people got a bit more squiggly when writing out that tilde. While this is the most accepted theory on the origin of the question mark, there's yet more debate around this one too. There's evidence that Alcuin of York wasn't the first to use it, and evidence that it didn't work in the exact same way as the modern question mark does. It would be a few more centuries after this that the exclamation mark would appear in the Middle Ages, as its medieval origins are believed to lie in the 14th century. This theory explains to us that an Italian poet named Jacopo Appolio da Oblasagalia created it. There doesn't seem to be too much evidence as to how he invented it. Like, there isn't a story explaining why it has that shape, but apparently he just whipped it up one day. We do, however, know why he created it. This poet, whose name I won't even attempt to say a second time, wanted a punctuation mark to explain to people that what he was writing was meant to be said with excitement. He actually dubbed it the punctus admirativus, which means something like the admiration punctuation. He wished for it to be able to spread joy in the written form, so a simple sentence like "I love you" could burst off the page so the writer could fully explain their love for whoever it was meant for in a way words simply could not. I honestly love this fact that the exclamation mark was initially meant for joy, like it literally means admiration mark. This is great because today the exclamation mark has become way more linked with anger and danger. While people do still use it to show love, we really ought to do it more often. Let's try and use it more for admiration and exclamation. Though, once again, that's just a theory. In fact, all of these have been just theories. The Egyptian, Roman, and medieval origins for both the question mark and exclamation mark are all inconclusive. They could come from some other origin or a mixture of the three, though probably not the cat one. Whatever happened, these two pieces of punctuation are in all our lives now, and they help guide the written form of language in way words simply don't allow us. And from their origins, they've spawned some variations in other languages too. Noticeably, we have the upside down question mark and exclamation mark. These are seen most commonly in Spanish. These were introduced to the Spanish language in the 18th century and served the purpose of going at the start of either a question or an exclamation. They are accompanied by a regular question or exclamation mark at the end of a sentence, like we see in English. This means that a question in Spanish has an upside down question mark at the start of it and a regular one at the end. Same rule applies to exclamation marks too. The question mark has also been mirrored for use in right to left scripts, like Arabic an example. It works in the same way as it does in English. It just looks in the opposite direction. Of course, the exclamation mark didn't need to be mirrored, as it's already symmetrical in appearance, which makes things easier to say the least. A mirrored question mark has also been used as an irony mark, as in to imply that something is being said in an ironic manner. This is a great idea, and it's a shame it hasn't picked up more traction, as it's something many written languages desperately need. I guess at this point, emojis or the word kappa has replaced it. That's probably something I need to look into more. Yet, sometimes a statement isn't just a question or an exclamation. Sometimes it can be both. Like if you're angry with someone, you might want to shout the question, "What do you think you're doing?" So how do we represent that? Well, we can simply use both punctuation marks at the end of the sentence in either order. But what if I told you that there's one mark that does both of these things? Well, it exists, and it's called an interrobang. As you can see, the interrobang is a hybrid of the question mark and exclamation mark. It was invented by American advertiser Martin K. Spector in 1962 to serve as both an exclamation mark and a question mark all in one. Annoyingly, it hasn't really seen widespread usage. We should definitely try and bring it back. For now, however, I guess we can carry on using separate marks for both of them. But whether it was through men of the Middle Ages wanting a symbol to represent happiness and questions, Romans mushing letters together, or somehow cats' tails being their inspiration, that's the origin of the question mark and exclamation mark. And if you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Oh, sorry, that was meant to be an exclamation mark. I've accidentally written a question mark at the end there, but you get the point.
Name Explain depends on viewers like yourself supporting the channel financially on Patreon, so a huge thank you to everyone who does. Donating just $1 a month helps the channel amazingly and gets you bonuses including ad-free videos, exclusive content, the power to request ideas to be made into actual Name Explain videos, and your name at the end of the video with all these awesome people. Visit patreon.com/NameExplain or click the link down below to find out how you too can support the channel. Thank you. Thanks for reaching the end of the video. Why not watch another and subscribe to keep up to date on all things Name Explain. You can find myself on Instagram where I'm NameExplainYT and join the Facebook group Friends of Name Explain to talk with myself and other name nerds. All that will be linked down below. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and once again, thank you all so much.